Okay, thank you, Nathan. As Nathan said, I'm Brian Nuttall, M0OYG, and this talk is all about our foray into mobile operations. I'm just going to share my screen now because I can see that I've not got that up. There we go. So there we are. There's a picture of us, and this is a story of discovery around myself and my son's journey into enlightenment, as I would say. So this all started back about 9 years ago when a gentleman who is actually listening to this talk and watching me now, Dave Starkey, G4AKC, came to our local radio club, that's the Thornton Cleveland's Amateur Radio Society, and did a talk and showed some things that blew myself and Nathan away of what he had achieved at very low power by working by the sea and making contacts all over the world. So it's worth mentioning that Dave holds the world record for backpack to backpack contact between Blackpool and Christchurch, New Zealand on 10 milliwatts. This is an absolute brilliant achievement, and you can hear that contact on Dave's website and QRZ page, etc. If you just look him up, he has both, and you can see around the actual slide. There's a link there to his own website, and also to a group that he runs called Real HF Mobile. So I'll carry on now to the next slide. But there's me and Nathan. That was actually on Nathan's 21st birthday. He was dressed up like that on a cruise on the Californian coast. So not a bad day. We absolutely loved it. Well, let's move on. So here we are. Here's the pictures of Dave, G4AKC, with one of his pedestrian mobile trolleys. And there's two videos there of the first time that Nathan and I joined him on the beach to see it in action. And I'm going to play those for you now. These were contacts with VK3MO, Ian in Australia, about 8 AM in the morning. Beautiful morning, nice day. And these were our first contacts. So here we go.
That's his father who'd like to say hello as well. So it's just that by one, get in. Like zero Oscar Yankee Golf Pedestrian Mobile to VK3MO. Good morning, Ian. Brian here. Nice to meet you for the first time, over.
Yeah, okay, yeah, Brian. And very pleased to meet you also, and very good morning to your father there as well. So, I think I've got that okay.
I'm Nathan's father. My father is here. Well, not at all. Lovely to get you. Great signal coming in. Absolutely marvellous to see this live for the first time. Can't wait to get mine set up and make some contacts like this that are nice and easy to hear. Unfortunately, my QTH is very built up, and there's bits all over the place. It's very, very difficult to get out. So you're not to get working like this. So thank you very much for the contacting. Do appreciate it. I'll hand you back to Dave now, and you take care. 73 from myself and Nathan.
Yeah, thanks.
So we'll now go into Nathan's contact.
We can just say hi to you. So just remember. It's 2 echoes here. Oscar Charlie. That's all. 3MO. Hi, my name is Nathan. I'm 17 years old.
Good morning, Nathan. Very pleased to hello to you. I've got this QRS at the moment, but it's pretty amazing that you're out on the beach there, and with the setup you've got, it's really incredible. Anyway, Nathan, how are you, over?
That's you. There's 2 echoes here. Charlie. That's all. 3MO. I'm very nice nice awake here now.
Right, there you go. So I think the overriding thing here is the quality of the incoming signal and how there's you know, virtually no noise floor and very easy to make a copy, as if the as I term it, on many occasions it's almost like you're talking on FM, not on HF. So that's sort of one of the attractions really to using this method of working. So let me just get along to the next slide. So this is just on the beach, just to show how easy it is to actually work on the beach. On the back of that on the back of that 817 is a Wonder Wand, which is about as much use as a chocolate fire guard, if we're really honest. But here Nathan is talking into Europe without any problem. I think he was on 10 meters here, maybe 20. Well, I think it was 10 actually, and you can hear how easy this contact was to make. So there you go. So that just proves how easy it is. Whoops, I've jumped one. So why do we do it by the sea? Well, there's a number of reasons. First and foremost, I'm getting a bit older now, so I don't want to be climbing mountains anymore. My knees won't take it. It's cheaper on petrol because we only live about a mile away, and it's easy to achieve much greater results. And look at the scenery. On a nice day, I wouldn't suggest it would be like that today, but on a nice day, depending on what time of the day you're there, the scenery is unbelievable. You wouldn't believe it was Blackpool at times. You know, thank goodness I'm not looking the other way, because it probably won't be as nice as what it is there. But that's the one on the right is looking out up to the Lake District and what have you, and obviously the other one is straight out towards Ireland. So a beautiful, beautiful place on the right day and the right weather. So here's a picture of me with one of my early trolleys. As you can see, I've got a bit of a fishing pole going up the side there with just a piece of wire wrapped around it. It's a piece of speaker wire. And I'm talking to Australia, not in that picture clearly, but you get the general idea. It's much easier to work stations, and the miles per watt is much greater. So, you know, I can run very low power and get, you know, thousands upon thousands of miles. There's a low noise floor. There's fresh air, which is good for you. It's not very good when it's cold, believe you me, but it's okay. You meet people every time you're out. You can have a chat and a laugh. Not in COVID, may I add, but normally have a good laugh and a chat. I've met many amateurs out there going, "Oh, what are you doing?" You know, I've not done that myself. Why have I not done it? If you know what I mean. Or you get people who inquire, and you can put them to the nearest radio club and things like that. So really, really good. And also, you know, and actually, there's also a chance that you might come across people when you then go on holiday. And Dave's an example of that. He's met up with people in Australia. We've had Australians coming over to Britain and meeting up for us at breakfast after a DX session. Obviously, this is well before COVID. So it's really, really good. For example, this next year, I was supposed to be going over on a cruise over to Canada and New England, and I was going to meet up with guys there at the at Signal Hill on Newfoundland and perhaps work their radio. And obviously, we've talked to people up there many times. So yeah, absolutely all good stuff. So the evolution, this is the bit that makes such a difference. So obviously I've now shown you the early videos. I've made a number of trolleys. Dave will tell me I can't stick to one design for very, very long. I'm probably a real pain because I end up going to be going, can you just optimize this for me? But other than that, you know, it's really quite good. The reason for this has been anything from saving money to getting passed by the XYL. We do have an issue here with the XYL, like lots of men do. Putting aerials up is fairly frowned upon, and obviously spending money is even more frowned upon on radio equipment. So the lucky thing about our system is that the GTU in itself is very inexpensive, and it doesn't take much to do. Nathan will tell you my and Dave will actually tell me as well, one of my wonderful things is that I do create quite a lot of dry joints. I'm not the greatest at making things and soldering up. It's not I don't do it for a living. I push pens and work with computers for a living. I have absolutely no background whatsoever in electronics, apart from I can read books and pass exams. First and foremost, I enjoy playing radio. So that's the top and bottom of where I come from. So here's what we're doing and how it works. So basically, as you all know, or potentially know, the best thing about an aerial is to get the lowest angle of radiation or reflected signals, because the lower the angle, the greater the bounce, the further it will bounce those angles. So if you're by the sea, you are at the possible lowest angle you can get. So that makes it for an extremely efficient antenna. You don't need a beam. All you need is a vertical antenna. A quarter wave is absolutely ample and will get you around the world. In fact, I can tell you of a time when I was contacting an Australian one morning, and I went in after I heard a guy from Norfolk talking to me. It must have been a good day for propagation, because I was hearing the guy in Norfolk as good as what I was hearing the guy in Australia. And as I goes into this guy in Australia and get straight into him, and I start to talk to him, and in between all this, the guy from Norfolk comes in again. Can you tell that guy in Blackpool I can hear him? And I went, yeah, I can hear you too as well. So it would appear at that point that my signal was travelling either over England to Norfolk, or potentially actually around the world via Australia to the guy as well. So absolutely brilliant propagation and brilliant signals all the way around. So the complete radiation beam only forms several wavelengths from the antenna. So basically what we call the sea is God's own ground plane, and it's basically a great thing that allows us to do this and gives the effect of almost having a mirror just sat straight in front of you. But what you need to do to use this is get into a place called the Fresnel zone, and that Fresnel zone is really very close to not the water's edge necessarily, but beyond. So if you're parked in a car near the sea and there's a promenade in front of you, if you can get the other side of the promenade by the sea, then you only get into that Fresnel zone, and it will make a heck of a difference. As you start to move your trolley away from that Fresnel zone, you just watch the signals just drop. So it really does make a difference. It also makes a difference at time whether the sea is in or out. So it's very crucial. So this is a picture of the Golden Mile at Blackpool. It's about 7 miles, and right at the top of the picture, as you see the sand disappear, that's actually Fleetwood. I'm normally based quite a bit further up the promenade from there, probably around the housing where you can see the grass start, somewhere around there, perhaps even a little bit further on than that. And Dave's actually off the picture nearer to the bottom of the page. So we're quite a way apart, and we will sit on the beach at certain times, and we will work together to get DX. And pass the contacts between each other. It's a lot of fun, and then we get members from the real HF Mobile from all over the world joining in, and it's quite a great group. Now, bearing in mind, guys, that all this is done by phone only, no CW, no FT8 or any of that, just phone contacts, and basically with 100 watts or less. And as we work people, we normally drop the power down. And as I say, Dave has gone as far down as 10 milliwatts. I've certainly done it on, 10, 5 watts, not a problem at all, to anywhere you can think of. So there you go. Right, so that's that one. Oh, obviously, because we work on a trolley, and the trolley is only very small, or something similar, we haven't got a lot of grounding. And in fact, what you must do when you build your trolleys or whatever is you must make sure that none of your equipment is actually touching any metal that is connected to the trolley itself. So in effect, they must float. They must float away from everything. And when I say float away, what my general MO is, I use things like bits of wood or chopping boards, anything like that that isn't you know, that won't hold any sort of isn't electrically connected. We can separate that electrical, that metal connection. So everything is all away. However, we need it up ground for RF stability and to make sure that, obviously, as far as the radio is concerned, it's got a good match and it has the second half of the antenna. And that second half of the antenna is, in effect, the trolley and its capacitance to earth or the sea. Yeah, salt water in effect. So to do that, we use the ground tuning unit. Now, as you can see on this picture, on a lovely picture there, but just to show you, actually, here is that ground tuning unit that I actually made. Now, not the greatest, as I say, but if I can manage this, so can you. So what has it got? So on the back here, we've got the antenna pass through here, okay? And underneath, some a connection that allows us to connect to the trolley, earth to the trolley, and or to an extra piece of wire. But generally, it's a trolley. We don't want trailing wires. They are dangerous, and they don't particularly enhance the situation. And you certainly won't want to be walking around with an extra piece of wire hanging out your trolley. So what we got here, we've got a variable capacitor at the bottom. Okay, as you can see it there. We've got a 12-point inductor switch here. As you can see from the picture and from here, there's a wire wound around a toroid in effect, and then it's onto the 12 points. It's soldered to the 12 points of the switch. The center of the switch comes out, and then it goes to the meter, and it's breaking the braid. This is just a variable, so you can actually see what's coming on the meter to see where the deflection is. So that's for sensitivity. Okay. And that sensitivity comes from this wire that's wrapped around one of the coils on there. Okay, so that's the ground tuning unit, and you monitor that RF current, and that again with the SWR can change that slightly and bring that down. So you've got to go between the two. Not hard to do, but it does increase performance. And as you get that tuning right, you hear the level of signal come up. So works an absolute treat, and that's how that works. So there it is on one of the early trolleys, and you can see the antenna wire coming in and then the sensor going out and up the wire on the other side. So that's just not in a see-through box. The reason it's in that box now is because all the controls are on one side. Okay. Oh, adjusting the ground current. The ground current conductivity determines how much ground current is flowing. Hence, if the tide is in, the ground conductivity increases, and the ground tuning has to be adjusted dependent on the prevailing ground conditions. A peak of both the received and transmitted signal is achieved when the ground current is maximised when operating near the sea. So this is just a bit of a chart here showing obviously what sort of resistance they get dependent on where you are. So as you can see, for ourselves, if we go near the ocean, it's 0.22. And then you start going up and up and up. I live basically on a clay soil, so I'm going to be, you know, pretty stuffed at 250. And if you try and work from the lakes and places like that, well, it's no point, is it? Fortunately, we don't have any deserts, so we're not that badly off. So this is a picture of the inside of the equipment that's inside that ground tuning unit that I showed you. And as you can see, what's actually happening is, and if you can see my mouse, I hope you can see at this point here is where we're breaking the braid. There's the braid carrying on basically to the earth, but it's been broken underneath here and it comes back through, and that goes through the capacitance and inductance and out through here. Okay, so that's where we're getting the grounding from that stud there. There was an extra one I put on there to put to that original trolley through there as well. So that's two ways of connecting it. So hopefully that's quite good. This is actually a schematic drawing of exactly that. So you can see you've got your transceiver, you can see the brain is broken. It goes through the capacitor, and in this case, a roller coaster, or any sort of tuning or work. That's just another way. And then you've got your quarter wave antenna going up. Okay. In this case, we've got a thing here to make it smaller. Especially on a windy day, that's quite useful. And I've made one like that. Mine's about, I don't know, 3 or 4 meters long. It's not very big. And that's actually just the GTU meter rig out. This is the inductance coil. So you don't put that in twice, which is what I did the first time. So there you go. So this is just a show about space, how confined the space is, and also here, something I want to really point out, it's really important, you've got lots of toroids, and these are on there to stop RF coming back to the rig. So you've got them on your microphone, you've got them on all your leads, just to stop any stray RF, because that is not our friend. We don't want any jolts off it from the metal of the unit either. And you can see here again that on this trolley, which is actually Dave's, you can see here where he's got these in, which are obviously something like what I use, just something that's non-metallic that he can grab his equipment with. So this is a quick video of one of my first antenna with a capacity of that. So this is, you know, the sort of thing I was doing very early on. But you'll get the idea of how I've rigged this up.
Right, good afternoon. Quick look at my new capacity antenna mechanism on the pole, and I'm going to roll. So, one capacity length as per G4AKC.
Oh, I don't know what's happened to the sound, guys. But if I fast forward through this, you'll see what I do. So, unhook all of this. Make myself a little jig that sits on top of the fishing pole. And a crocodile clip to go on the capacity of that. There we go. Nice and sturdy. Capacity of that sits in there. Put the croc clip on it. Hook that up. Put that in the old trolley. One of the original ones, which was in the 8897 was on it, 817 was on it. I used to use the 817 with the KL203, which was quite good actually. Just wrap that round a bit. And the whole idea here is if you're on the front and you want to operate, you don't want to, in case it rains or etc., you don't want to take a load of time to put things up and put things back down again. So this is very, very quick, as you can see. So we'll stop that there. We'll move on. And this is one of my first trolleys. Different ground tuning unit, but exactly the same thing, and it had a light in it. And I'm very sorry to say I've lost that. I don't know where it's gone. I'm sure I lent it to somebody, and I've never seen it again. With an 897 this time, and 2 17 amp an hour batteries, which were actually jump starters. But the whole idea of this is that the whole thing just sat in the back of the car, in the boot, and you could bring it in and take it out. I must say though, I have got rid of the 897. It was too heavy. And some of those batteries at the time and how it was done. So again, I did some more. So I did a Mark III trolley, and I bought an Alinco DX70 and a 40 amp an hour battery, which worked extremely well, but again was very heavy. With work and the XL, I just couldn't get out enough, and Dave will tell you I still don't get out enough. Work is, as he said, I should give it up, but I can't, unfortunately. But when I did have some great contacts and some memorable QSOs, and often in company with G4AKC. He was near the tram depot and I was up in Cleveland. So we did do some wonderful things. So after I've moved house probably the last 3 years, and eventually after doing the house up, I was then able to make a new trolley. and my effort with this new trolley was to make it as small as possible, and I didn't do so bad actually. So this was my first version of it. You can see it in the 817, the KL203. On the picture you can see the some little batteries here, which were running the 817, and I used to, underneath that I had a 10 amp an hour battery to run the KL203, and to be fair, it did actually work. I've changed the antenna now. It is now an MFJ 1979, and literally that little trolley would stick in the corner of the car boot, so I could still do shopping, I could still keep my wife happy, I could still go on holiday with it if I wanted to, etc, etc. So that was quite good, and it was sat on top of a collapsible trolley, which used to be used for, not by me, I bought it for radio, but was used for putting suitcases on before they had wheels. That was what it was made for, and I'm very pleased to say that we got that trolley for £1.87, which was an absolute bargain from a cheap shop. So after that, I still wasn't happy, never happy, I will tell you. So I made another trolley. I used the same box, but I want to move the orientation around on it, and that's what we got then with that. So get an idea of that. Again, that's now got the Alinco DX70 in it, and underneath it just sits on top of, surprise, surprise, a box, and that box contains a 35, 38 amp hour battery in the car battery. So that's that, and that's constantly on charge in the shed, ready to go, just floating. And then I've made a Mark 6. And this Mark 6 now is a little bit more simpler in a way, because all I've got now is this MFJ 934, which has not only on this side a standard tuning unit, but also on this side, when you switch this over, this is a ground tuning unit, so it's all in one. So it just makes a little bit more sense. And I've added a clear speak DSP speaker in to just help a little bit clear the audio up slightly. But it's not necessary, but it's just a nice to have. So that's the latest unit. So, now on to G4AKC sort of setup now. Dave has got himself an electric sit-on trike, which he uses, and an old bicycle box at the back of it. And as you can see, it's got a lot of equipment in here. This is just one of the many different trolleys that Dave's got, depending on what he's doing. So you can see from the pictures here, he can record his QSOs. He's got the Alinco DX70. He's got top of the range DSP unit there. He's got a headset that is Bluetooth, so you can just hear the audio when he's out. He can put that on, put his headphones on, put his hat on if it's cold, and listen, and it stops passers-by from bothering him too much as well. So underneath there is a KL 500. I think it's a 500 for when propagation is difficult, and to start QSOs off if necessary. He normally only leaves that on breathing, so it's putting out 100 watts, 150, and the actual radio is putting out next to nothing. So he has two batteries on board, one for the radio and one for the KL for the amplifier. However, that is rarely used, but he can use it if he wants. It can be QRP or QRO. And actually, if you look on this picture here, this is his obviously Alinco DX70 normally only has two powers, high and low, okay, which can be set at either 150 watts or 110 watts. He has built in, using the ALC, a variable power unit here, so he can literally turn down the Alinco to milliwatts completely. In this corner here is his tuner to use as a ground tuning unit. A bit of a better look at it there. There's the amplifier underneath. Antenna switch, because he can switch between antennas if necessary. So he's got one here, and he's got one on the side as well. So all in all, that's what he does. That's how his trolley works. So on the air results, so Nathan and I will tell you how good it is working from the promenade, especially when it's lovely weather. And here in Blackpool, however, again, location is everything. Since Blackpool seafront has been changed, it's made a difference. So I used to go to a spot just in Cleveland, and that spot was pretty good. And as I say, I moved house, so I had a couple of years off when I didn't do this. And while I was off, they redone some of the seafronts, or quite a lot of the seafront now. It's almost about finished, I think. And what's actually happened is that the spot I used to use, all these stones have started coming up this side. And in fact, it's made that the front's been changed that much that out in the bay above Fleetwood, between Fleetwood and Morecambe, there's actually a hill has started to form in the sea, believe it or not, of pebbles. Really weird. So that's changed, and those pebbles have actually made a difference there. And actually, contacts from there are a lot more difficult than what they used to be. And I've had to move, believe it or not. So it does make a difference. So if you look at G4AKC's website, you'll see a list of the DX he gets on his outings. You'll see videos and all sorts. And the reason I say this is because I have lost a lot of my paper lists during my house move, and up till recently, I didn't really do any electronic logging, which I now regret, as I can only prove a fraction of the DXCCs I've probably got. Having said that, I've got some really good stuff in the log, including Australia, New Zealand, Ecuador, Japan, French Polynesia, to name but a few. So, and it's always using phone and low power. If you go onto Club Log and look me up, you'll probably see the sort of things I've got. As I say, not in great numbers, because I didn't keep records very well. So I've just got a couple of different videos here of me making contacts myself from that original trolley with the Alinco, with the KL203 and the FT817. So here goes, guys. This one's with VK3 Cow, who incidentally lives on the reason it's called VK3 Cow, he lives in the middle of nowhere in the outback in Australia.
I think there's either a video or I've read about you, so very good indeed, Nick. So the phone line for the fourth station in the group is Echo Alpha 3 G7 DIE Portable, and his name is Stephen. Go ahead, Stephen. Charlie Oscar Whiskey returning. Your readability 5, and I'll have to give you strength 0, Steve. Being out in the countryside or arid the bush, being out in the bush, Steve, I have to say that the noise level is exceedingly low, and consequently I can copy very low power stations and get you with the QRP operating. So excellent. I'll throw it back to you for a report. But just before I do, a quick comment to Dave. Yes, Dave, you're right. Tony made a video of my contact with him and popped it on YouTube. And that was very good to be able to hear what it was like coming through the other end. Anyway, Steve, so this is tremendous. I think they put 5 watts, so back to you. Echo Alpha 3 Golf 7 Delta India Echo.
So there you go. So that's Australia, and as you can see, 5 and 9, and lovely coffee. So this is now this was my first ever outing on the trolley.
My name is Dave, Delta Alpha Victor Echo.
Right, well, you've got a miss now. So you can see from that, well, there's two things you can see from those pictures, how everything is floating off that piece of plastic there, and there's no metal that can actually touch the actual trolley frame from the radio. You can see also here how it got the ferrites and things to stop any RF coming back. Well, you could hear in that final audio there as to why I moved away from an 817 to an Alinco, because Alinco, the 817 didn't sound quite as nice. So so that's why I did that. So is it worth the effort? Well, the results within the Fresnel zone are truly remarkable, particularly when using a vertical. The gain figures near the sea are as close to 15 decibels, and the improvement on the low angle signals as well. This has been proven in practice with many on-air contacts while moving in and out the Fresnel zone. So often DX signal reports on both transmit and receive easily beat those of other UK and European stations using beams and higher power. I can tell you of times when myself and Dave have broken pile-ups, when they've been, you know, even Italians, when we've been sat on the seafront, we get picked out all the time. I can also tell you from experience, I spoke to a gentleman who was in New Brunswick in Canada, and he was just on a little tiny dipole, nothing spectacular, very, very low. And I was talking to him and he went, "Oh, so what beam have you got?" I went, "No, I'm pedestrian mobile. I'm sat on the seafront with a vertical." He went, "No, you're not. Can't be." I said, "Well, hang on, go look on QRZ." And he looked on QRZ, and when he picked himself off the floor, we had a lovely long chat. He could not believe what I was doing. He was absolutely gobsmacked. So generally speaking, you get some great reactions. You also get the other reactions in the way around, where people go, "Oh, you've not done that. That's a lie. You're not doing that." Well, guys, you've seen the videos there. We are doing that. And what I'm telling you is the absolute truth. So yeah, it's absolutely, if you can get by the sea, it's absolutely worth it. I've got a thing I want to do, and I've not done it yet, but there's one thing I want to do. Now, Nathan obviously lives in the middle of Scotland, so doing this is not on his agenda anytime soon. And he does make a lot of contacts, Nathan. He's got access to a lot of extremely good equipment. But my one thing I want to try is beating with his FT8 from the seafront. Because as we know, FT8, you know, it doesn't need a lot of power, etc., etc. I can make FT8 contacts from home. Yeah, not easily, not all the time, but I can do it. I'm reckoning if I can go and sit with an FT8 for a few hours down by the front over a long enough period of time at different times of the day, I can probably work the world without even blinking an eyelid. I want to do that just to show how much difference it makes even to something like that. But I've not got round to it, and as Dave will tell you, I haven't got the time. This week I've put in over 40 hours already, and it's only Thursday. My job is quite stressful and very time consuming, and not conducive to radio, unfortunately, gentlemen. So there you go. Even though there is one sat behind me, but I don't get enough time to do a proper job. This is only in here because it was in the shed, and actually it's winter, and I wasn't going to go sit in there because it's too cold, even if I had an hour or two. So we put it in. I got permission eventually to put one in here. So there you go. So that's the end of the actual presentation. I've whizzed through that quite a lot quicker than I expected to do, but there you go. But I think that says everything you need to know. Any questions? Open it to the floor.
Guys, you can obviously unmute or put your cameras back on, and you're more than welcome to obviously ask questions as you please. I'm also monitoring the chat as well, and we'll forward anybody who hasn't got the microphone or anything else. Do you want to turn off your presentation so we can unpin between videos?
Yeah, sorry, I'll stop sharing then. Sorry, thank you. How's that?
That's not a problem. So has anybody got any questions?
Yeah, I've followed it mostly. So there's no earth at all apart from your ground tuning unit. Does that actually connect with it?
Absolutely, yeah. You do not earth any of your equipment, not in a traditional sense at all. It must float, because the only earth that's available to you is the ground tuning, and that's the idea, is get it all going through there, and that couples with the sea and the surrounding earth, and that gives you the earth on the aerial side. So in effect, that makes an absolutely exceptional antenna that looks like it's a full dipole, but the dipole is actually going into the sea.
Right.
Does that
Okay.
make
Get it
sense?
connected back to the chassis, Brian.
Yes, yeah.
So you're
Yeah, it's connected to the chassis. So this goes through the chassis and the rubber wheels, if you like, but the rubber wheels are conductive anyway.
It's not so much that, it's capacitive coupling. So you've got a coupling arrangement between the frame of the radio via the ground tuning unit, then back to the frame and down to true earth.
Right.
So that's the principle behind it.
Yeah, got it.
Thank you, Dave. And
no
oh,
problem,
gentlemen,
Brian.
just so you know, the gentleman speaking there is the absolute expert on this form of work, and his results are outstanding. And as I say, I'm sure Dave would be more than happy for you to visit his website and look at all the information, which there is lots more than that presentation on there, and all the videos and everything about what he does. So extremely good. So Duncan, so what if you don't have a GTU? Well, Duncan, you've got two options really. Your first option is to get the MFJ unit, which I showed on my presentation, or make one. Very, very easy. As I say, if I can make one, anybody can.
Tools are somewhat limited, which is why I'm asking. I mean, for example, I've got a Pixie kit here I bought for about £6 from eBay. I can't actually read the colour bands on the resistors. So constructing something like that, I think, is a little bit outside my capabilities.
I understand exactly where you're coming from. Unfortunately, there is no GTUs commercially available apart from the MFJ unit, which is the... Oh, in fact, Dave, do they actually do a GTU on its own?
I believe
Yes, they do. Yes, I think it's an MFJ 931, if memory serves correct, Brian.
Right. So there you go. You have, there is a possibility, and there is a commercial unit available to you. You'd have to look. I know. I gotta say that I know what you're saying about the components, but actually, if you look back at the pictures in the presentation of the inside of the GTU, the good news about the GTU is actually, apart from probably one component, which is the rectifier for the signal into the actual meter, the rest of them are actually extremely large components. There's nothing tiny, so you might be okay. But please have a look. You don't necessarily have to have small components.
Any other questions from anybody?
I'm sure that if Duncan ordered the bits off eBay and got them delivered to somebody's house to build it for him anyway. Don't worry about it, Duncan.
Well, I'm actually going to put them on the multimeter.
The other trick with small components is if you've got a good webcam or camera phone, just zoom in and take a photo.
Yeah,
I've done
just
that.
Mentioned about a multimeter. You can use a multimeter as the meter in the ground tuning unit just by adding a detector. So the basic detector circuit that Brian illustrated earlier on one of his slides, you can use the meter as the multimeter as that, and just downscale it in accordance with whatever the ground current is. So that part of it's done. So all you need from then is just an LC tuning network, a series LC network, which can either be a roller coaster and a variable capacitor, or alternatively, it can be the toroidal switched coil that Brian illustrated. Both work adequately and equally as well.
Right. Torrin, did you have a question?
Yes. So if you, when you go out on pedestrian mobile, surely you get lots of non-radio hands passing by. Have you had any? Do any of them get like suspicious, or what's the general reaction from the public when you're doing this?
I've got to say, the more of them. I'm very much a person people, so or a people person. So I'm quite. Dave will tell you many times he loses me because I'm chatting to somebody who's come up and talked to me. General reaction is you get the odd one that'll go, "What do you think you're going to catch with that?" Because it's generally a fishing rod or something that looks similar to a fishing rod. So you get all of that sort of reaction. Or you get the ex-ham who hasn't been a ham for years, or he's into CV, and they'll say, "Is that CV?" That's the other one you get. We get the people who are genuinely interested, because if you've not got your earphones on, for example, and they hear something coming through from Australia or somewhere like that, or America, you know, who are you talking to? What are you doing? And you'll show them, and I show them and explain what I'm doing, and generally the reaction is pretty good. On the whole, I've never had, touch wood, I've never had any abuse or anything like that from anybody, and nobody's ever tried to steal anything from me. So I think I'm quite lucky, I'll be quite honest, and touch wood. But I live up the north of Blackpool, and as I said, when I moved up the north of Blackpool, you get a better class of muggery, and they say please and thank you. So that might be one of the reasons. It's an older age group. Up this end, there's a lot of old people's homes and things like that. So generally, there's not too many kids.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for anybody?
I'll talk about my one then. It's not a question, but I can agree with the antenna. I did IOTA from Guernsey for many a year, and the verticals near the beach were absolutely the best antennas we had. And when we've worked from that location, which was just on the north of the island, every time we got Oceania without fail. So.
Yeah, I see your point, Paul. I'll tell you a story actually now. We used to, as I say, Nathan and I used to do SALTWATER and and we once went on an expedition. There's a little island just off Barrow-in-Furness here called Peel Island. Not to be what's-itted with Peel on the Isle of Man. And very stupidly, because we hadn't met Dave then, we all took things like half-size G5s and sat in the middle of the island surrounded by saltwater trying to make contacts. If only we'd have known at that point what we know now, I think we might have been a wee bit more successful on that trip and would have made a lot more contacts. So yeah, absolutely. And if you look at all of the IOTA guys as well, when you see the videos of them, I don't think any of them take a beam ever now that you just take verticals, don't they?
In later years, we operated from in the island further, but I still think our verticals we did actually have radials, but they were so close to the beach, but they weren't on the beach. I think it made a difference.
Absolutely. Well, you don't have to be actually in the water or on the sand, guys. Let's be honest. You just need to be pretty close proximity. So, for example, we wouldn't go down on the sand, Dave and I. We're literally just up against the sea wall as near as we can get, or just at the other side of the railings, dependent on the situation and what part of the town we're in. And it works a treat. But I wouldn't go down and go on the sand. Why would I want to get my equipment all covered in sand for a start off? So that's where we are. And in fact, what we found, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong here, on the top of the sea wall, you're probably about a quarter wavelength higher than the sea. So that actually also helps with the antenna tuning, etc., because of that reason that you're at that distance above. If you can get something behind you as well, that can also help to obviously reflect the signal again out towards the sea. So, but that's we've known of people being on where it drops down towards the sea and it be partially down a hill, things like that. But that's basically the premise behind it. So you don't have to actually be on the water or in the sea. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, I've just got one question. Do you ever go near Russell School?
Now I know what you're going to ask me. I haven't done Rossall School, but I've been on that where you can park up further up.
Yeah.
And actually, it's a dead loss. And do you know why?
Go on.
What I said, it's all the beach there is full of stones,
Yeah.
and it's level with the beach, isn't it? It's not
It is,
above
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and that makes a hell of a difference.
Right.
So
'Cause
obviously you know the area by the sounds of it.
I'm not like very far away from you. I'm only in Kirkham, so.
Oh, right, there you go. Well, when the place that I used to go that stopped being very good is that little car park almost opposite the what do they call it now? The
Norbright
cinema
Castle.
and what have you that sticks out there.
Oh, yeah. So,
That's gone off.
Yeah.
And I now go a bit further down towards Blackpool where the pumping station is, and there's that it bubbles out. That goes into the sea, and it's about that quarter wave above the sea, and
Right.
that place is pretty good. So you can
Yeah.
see the principles of how we've tested and worked out which is best.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do it, get up that end, get out your car, and get on that bubble, and that'll
Right.
make a difference.
Okay, thanks.
or even
Alright.
at Kirkham, you could head out towards more Preston Docks and head further out to where it actually
Yeah, I mean,
comes to saltwater on the wire side.
Yeah, you could. I mean, what about Lytham? If you can plank yourself on top of a sand dune or something.
Well, sand dune won't do you any good, I don't think, for a minute. But Dave, tell me if I'm getting this wrong. And Lytham,
absolutely right, Brian.
too far out. And it's too low again, just like Rossall. It's not
Yeah.
quite as bad as Rossall, but it's very low. And there's no when the sea comes in, it doesn't actually come up right away up very often.
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
lovely place. My wife's often asked me, "Well, can we not go down to Lytham to play radio?" Nah.
Fairhaven Lake's quite good. Fairhaven
Yeah.
Lake is a good spot where you can get out between the lake and the sea. That gives quite good performance. But of course, you're restricted to direction. That it's different to where you are in Blackpool or Cleveland. Your takeoff is more towards the south and the east. So therefore, you've got a different array to look at, a different array of countries to look at. A westerly heading will give you a long path to VKZL in the morning and to the States during the afternoon. So it's locations that you find are best for the given directions. But it's always got to be a sea path to get that enhancement.
As they've both said before multiple times, it's like the Channel 4 show, location, 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 and it makes all the difference.
So if I'm on the northeast coast and I've got two nice piers going out into the North Sea, one at Tynemouth and one at Blythe. They're about 5 meters above the sea level. So you want to sit yourself on the end of there.
Yes, Blythe Pier is very good. Do you know Dave, M0OYG?
I know the call sign, yeah.
Yeah, he operates a lot of pedestrian mobile as well, and he lives in Blythe. Mike Zero Delta Alpha Delta.
Yeah, I have heard him shouting out on 20 and 40 meters in the summer.
Yeah, he comes to Blackpool as well, so he operates from Blackpool, and he knows what it's a different aspect. Obviously, you work in a different direction. Blackpool is very good long path VKZL.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, across to the States, South America, Canada, whereas your location there is very dominant short path VK. It's a very good location to India, Far East, different sort of
from
thing.
the QTH with 20 watts, I've got no bother picking up the north of Norway and Iceland.
Yeah. The direction predominantly.
Goes at the same
Absolutely, yeah. The direction predominantly for you though is short path, to VK.
Yeah.
If you're going to work the DX, I'm talking about that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? With that, I will stop the recording.
I've